and welcome to the third episode of Tilt-A-World Pro. This is a brand new pro wrestling podcast, basically just going over AEW, Ring of Honor, New Japan, CMLL, basically most things that aren't WWE. I just don't watch WWE much anymore. I do somewhat keep up with it online, through tweets and things like that, but mainly I keep up with AEW, Ring of Honor, CMLL, and New Japan. So I just want to say hello again and thank you for watching if you are. And yeah, I'm very excited to be talking about some wrestling. The world is in a bad spot right now. So any sort of distraction or, things that bring you joy in the world, I think are important things. So if you are a wrestling fan, definitely hold on to the things that make you happy. And speaking of things that make me happy, I want to get right into this week of wrestling. Ring of Honor had a great week this week. Ring of Honor had a few shows. One, their weekly television show they just started taping in Florida, I think in Jacksonville. The new studio was kind of small. I think it only fits maybe like 100 or 200 people. And it does look a bit awkward, the setup, because there's two huge screens and then there's just like a few seats, or a few rows of seats, So it does look a bit awkward, and the crowd isn't as loud as per se for example, like a Full Sail University for NXT back in the day. But I think Ring of Honor being at one spot and just taping their show there is the best thing for Ring of Honor right now. It kind of allows them to have an identity, which is something that has been missing from Ring of Honor since Tony Khan bought it, in my opinion. Ring of Honor is an important staple in pro wrestling. It always has been since its inception. And I think Ring of Honor should continue to be important. I would like Ring of Honor to be the developmental for AEW. I think that would be the best route for it to be. So who knows where it's going to go from here. We do have a lot of veterans in Ring of Honor right now. Of course, Athena is the world champion, and Deonna Purrazzo is the pure champion in the women's division, which is pretty cool to see. So let's get right into the Ring of Honor television episode from this week on Honor Club. I watched a few matches from that show. There were a few great matches. One in particular was fantastic. So the first match I watched was, of course, Persephone versus Lacey Lane, who Lacey Lane was, of course, in WWE before. She used to team with Katana Chance. I believe her name was Kaden Carter in WWE. A very underutilized tag team. I hope we get to see Katana Chance come back maybe one day. They could tag together in AEW. I think that would be neat. Though, watching her in this match, I never really sought out her matches in WWE, but her match here with Persephone was really good. It was for the CMLL World Championship. Persephone, of course, is the champion. Just won the championship back from Mercedes Moné at the Night of the Amazons event for CMLL. And that match was fantastic as well. It was really cool to see Lacey Lane. This was my first time seeing her in a while, and it seems like she has improved immensely. And of course, Persephone is one of the best in the world already, and I think she's just going to keep getting better. To start the match, we had a couple of pin exchanges that I thought were really neat, really well done. Lacey Lane continues to use her athleticism well, and I think that the chemistry in this match was really neat because Lacey Lane was able to use her athleticism and speed, and Persephone was kind of the powerhouse of the match. Like I said before, Persephone is an undeniable superstar. I think she's going to be the world champion in AEW within the next few years. I would not be surprised. Though considering she is the CMLL world champion and there is a dual contract situation going on, I wouldn't be surprised if we have Persephone kind of continue to rock in CMLL for a little while. Maybe win the TBS championship first, but I would love to see Persephone as the world champion. Persephone's offense during the heat segments are outstanding and aggressive. Basically, if you don't know what a heat segment is, it's basically when the heel is beating up on the babyface. Sometimes the babyface can be beating up on the heel. It's basically like the slower part of the match before things kind of speed up again. And I thought Persephone's heat segment here was really good. Just really laying into Lacey Lane, yelling at the referee, yelling at the crowd. And the crowd is small for these studio tapings, like I said, but they were into this match. They gave all they could, and they were paying attention, which I really appreciated. and it's probably the best Lacey Lane has looked since I've seen her in Ring of Honor and AEW. Of course, Lacey Lane's match with Mercedes was pretty solid. Was that a few months ago, I think? Persephone, I think, could be a great heel or babyface. Her heel work in this, she was basically working as a heel in this match. She was really laying into Lacey Lane. Even when Lacey was down on the ground, she was just laying in elbows and punches. And when the ref would count 1 or 2, she would yell at the ref. I thought that was cool. And Lacey's offense is really fun. She does a lot of springboard moves and a lot of gymnastics, but she does these sort of quick pins that remind me of Rob Van Dam, excuse me. She does like this leg trip thing, like a capture. I thought that was awesome. If you haven't seen it, definitely go check it out. And it was a solid finish. Lacey Lane misses the springboard and lands on her feet with a roll through. And then Persephone catches her with a spear. And then, of course, her crucifix powerbomb finisher, which I thought it looks brutal every time. Persephone has a fantastic finisher, and her package deal, like her presentation, is really good. Like I said, she's a superstar, and I hope we continue to see Persephone in Ring of Honor. I wouldn't mind Persephone beating Athena for the World Championship, but there might be someone else that could take that championship away from Athena. We will get to that in a second. The next match I watched from this week's Ring of Honor episode was Trish Adora, who is fairly underrated in my opinion, versus the Ring of Honor Television Champion Red Velvet. And of course, this match was for the Ring of Honor World Television Championship. Trish Adora is a great striker. Similar to Persephone in the last match, very aggressive, very dominant during the heat segments. And Trish utilized some submissions as well to wear Velvet down. She did like this split, kind of yanking her arms back, and she was split on top of her. And then she started like twerking, which showed a lot of personality, a lot of spunk, I suppose. Caprice and who's the other guy? His name is Ian Riccaboni. They were very entertained by this as well. The pin exchanges were really good, and Red Velvet gets the roll-up win. Not a very long match. I think it was maybe under 10 minutes. But it was a solid showcase for both women. And Trish Adora, of course, came out with a woman named Christian XO, who might be taller than Lena Cross. I'm not sure. I haven't seen them, side by side, and I don't know their heights off the top of my head. But yeah, Christian XO looks pretty dominant. It looks pretty cool. A very intimidating look, especially standing next to Trish Adora. I think they could be a solid tag team going forward. Christian XO hits a End of Days, the old Baron Corbin finisher. I'm sure he still uses it now. But it looked cool, her hitting it on Red Velvet. And then Zeta Steel came out to save Red Velvet from the beatdown. And we basically get a tag team match set up, more than likely for next week's Ring of Honor. So it was cool to see Zeta Steel and Red Velvet get some mic time. I think Red Velvet is freaking amazing. Every time I see her, I'm always impressed. I think she's fairly underrated. I love the work she's doing in Ring of Honor, but I would love for her to come back up to AEW sometime soon. Maybe win the TBS championship. I think Red Velvet's almost a day one person with AEW. She's been there since almost the beginning. So it's awesome to see her improvement and her commitment to being a fantastic wrestler. She's always been charismatic, but I think her matches now are just structured a lot better. So that's awesome to see. So shout out to Red Velvet. And the main event of the Ring of Honor television show that I watched this week was Athena and Maya World. Wow. This match was as good as everyone is saying online. Maya World is only 23 years old, and she only has 3 years of experience as well on top of that, which is really crazy. Of course, she was mentored by Athena. I'm not sure if she was trained by Athena, but I know Athena had a lot to do with Maya World being where she is right now. And then there were counter strikes in the beginning, just striking back and forth. There was a backbreaker and suplex combo by Maya World to start off. Maya World was just coming out of the gate with a lot of speed and a lot of aggression, just trying to put away Athena quickly. And her strikes and slams, Maya's strikes and slams, look just as good as Athena's, which is pretty crazy because Athena always looks believable with her strikes. And I think Maya's strikes looked almost just as good, which, considering the difference in experience, that's pretty awesome. Athena was sent into the stairs by Maya on the outside, and Maya's showing a lot of determination, a lot of aggression in this match. There was a reverse Alabama slam by Athena onto the stairs, and Maya's face just went right into the steel. I thought it was about to be a vertebraker. I was low key scared. I was like, oh no. But yeah, the match started out just amazingly, and there was a lot of power moves, a lot of memorable moments just in the first few minutes. There was an Athena heat segment after that. Athena really laid into Maya World, slowing her down. And Athena's one of the best trash talking heels in wrestling. During her heat segment, she's always talking crap to the crowd and to her opponent, which adds a little bit of spice to the matches and to the heat segments. It's not just someone holding a headlock and just, waiting for the babyface to come back. And when the crowd's kind of quiet during those moments, Athena talks trash, which allows the crowd to get more into the match and want the babyface to come back even more. So Athena's heel work is top notch as always. I wrote down that Athena is top 5 in the world easily, and she might not even be 5, 4, 3, or 2. She might be the best women's wrestler in the world. Maybe the best wrestler, period, in the world. Athena's front handspring cartwheel into the elbow strike in the corner, one of her signature moves that she hits nearly every match. It always looks brutal, and it looks fantastic as well. Very sound, very smooth. Maya's offense is still a bit awkward looking at times. There were some small little botches, but I don't mind botches. I think because in a real fight, people are going to trip over each other and stuff like that, so botches never really bother me. Though I suppose it's worth mentioning just because most of her other work is very polished, so when it isn't as polished, it's a little bit noticeable. But that's something that's going to get fixed with more reps and more matches. Maya cuts off Athena with a roundhouse kick. I think Athena was going for a suicide dive, and Maya hit her with the kick, which looked really good. Athena suplexes Maya onto the floor outside from the apron. So they were standing on the apron, trying to hit a move on each other. Then Athena eventually gets the upper hand and hits a suplex on Maya off of the apron onto the floor. Oh, that thud just sounded really nasty. I'm sure those suplexes do not feel great, especially like in the moment they don't feel great, but I'm sure a few days later they feel even worse. So shout out to these wrestlers for taking these bumps for our entertainment. Athena suplexes, I did mention that. Maya World. Oh, okay. So Billy Starks does come out with Diamante to kind of interfere in the match. And when Billy Starks came in and she was laying in her offense, I was just thinking Maya World is better than Billy Starks, and it ain't even close. I know Billy Starks has been built up as this rookie who may eventually defeat Athena, but I do not want to see Billy Starks as the world champion in Ring of Honor. Like, I'm good on that, if I'm being honest. After watching Maya World, it's so clear that she is the person that should beat Athena eventually. There was awesome counter wrestling, a lot of pin exchanges, a lot of back and forth. The Billy Starks and Diamante interference was stopped by Hyan, who is Maya World's tag team partner. So that was cool to see. It's good to see Hyan. Hyan laid out by Athena's dive after the interference. Then Maya hits a twisting sunset powerbomb from the second rope to stop an Athena springboard. So Athena hops up to the second rope. She's looking to hit a springboard move. Then Maya jumps up onto the second rope with her and kind of flips over into a powerbomb. Looked super smooth. Probably my favorite spot of the match. It just looked great. And then Maya tries to hit Athena with the O-face, which is Athena's finisher, of course. And Athena dodges. Then Athena looks at her like, "You did not just do that. I know you're joking right now." Which was really good. Athena hits a pump handle tombstone pile driver. So if you're familiar with the pump handle slam, it's like you have the opponent bent over and then you pick them up into a slam. But instead of the slam, Athena transitions it into a tombstone pile driver, which looked amazing. And then chaos ensues, a little bit more interference. Then Billy Starks hands Athena the Ring of Honor World Championship. Athena uses it on Maya World, hits her O-face finisher, and gets the win. Amazing match. Their first match together was really good as well. It was a eliminator match with a 10-minute time limit, I believe. Then Maya World survived the 10 minutes, which led us to this match for the World Championship. Maya World is freaking fantastic, especially considering her years of experience, only 3 years of in-ring experience, and she's only 23 years old. I think that's amazing. There are a lot of great young talent in AEW and Ring of Honor, but I think Maya World is definitely someone to look out for in the next few years. Next up, after I watched the Ring of Honor television show, I caught up with the Ring of Honor and Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling Global Wars Canada joint show. I didn't watch every match on this show. I was kind of I didn't have a lot of time, so I was just trying to watch as much as I could. So I decided to start with the six-man pack challenge, however whatever that's called. First off, I wanted to say that Mauro Ranallo was on commentary with Ian Riccaboni and Don Callis. I think Don Callis is a solid commentator, and Ian Riccaboni is one of the best. And seeing Mauro Ranallo back on commentary, I know he's been doing some commentary for Maple Leaf Pro before, but every time I hear his voice, I just feel a wave of nostalgia from the NXT days. And yeah, it's great to see him. I'm glad he's doing well. The first match I watched was a six-man match. It was Michael Oku, Ace Austin, Brent Banks, Daisuke Sasaki, I hope I'm saying that somewhat right, Jake Christ, and Michael Allen Richard Clark. This guy, I just bit my tongue, bro. Michael Allen Richard Clark is like a heel. This was my first time seeing him. The name off the bat was making me laugh. I think that's hilarious to have a long name like that in wrestling, because people usually always go for something, nice, quick, and memorable. And yeah, he came out, cut a little promo. He's a pretty funny heel, honestly. I would like to see more of his work. Then Michael Oku came out. It's good to see Michael Oku. I wish we would see him more on AEW, honestly. I think he's signed, if I'm not mistaken. So I would love to see Michael Oku wrestle more on Collision or something like that. Maybe we could get Michael Oku and Tommaso Ciampa. I know Ciampa has been wrestling people like Lio Rush and Ace Austin, so I think that'd be neat. Then Daisuke Sasaki representing DDT from Japan. I thought that was worth mentioning. It's cool to see multiple companies be represented on this show. I love AEW for doing stuff like this, for making sure people know there are other wrestling companies out there. I think that's a beautiful thing, especially considering I grew up on WWE, and WWE was such a closed sandbox. So as a fan, I really love stuff like that. There's a lot of diversity that comes with it, and I think that's a beautiful thing. A lot of high-speed offense. This whole match was just, high velocity, high octane. Everyone was getting their stuff in. Everyone was trying as hard as they could to get something memorable in this match, which I think they did a pretty good job of. Of course, Ace Austin and Michael Oku were the ones that stood out to me. Their in-ring work are probably the most polished out of these guys. Brent Banks was super solid, though. He looked pretty good, though his haircut looked pretty wild. I won't lie. I hope someone fixes up his stuff a little soon. But Brent Banks looked pretty cool. Ace Austin put two men on his back in a fireman's carry position and then hit a squat. I was like, dude, because Ace Austin is not a tall person, so his strength is very surprising, I suppose. Ian Riccaboni called him Quadzilla, which rightfully so. This guy has big quads, and he proved that the quads are not just for show with squatting two people on his back. Ace Austin was definitely the MVP of the match. He had a lot of memorable stuff. There was a chaotic finish, everyone just kind of coming in, hitting a move, and then getting laid out. And then Michael Oku hits the 6-star frog splash for the win. Good to see Michael Oku pick up a win. The crowd was into Oku in this match. And yeah, great match to start off my viewing of the Ring of Honor and Maple Leaf Pro Global Wars Canada show. The next match I watched on that show was Athena and Taylor Rising. This was my first time seeing Taylor Rising. I believe she's a Canadian wrestler, which is awesome to see. Athena's great heel work as always. She was just really laying into Taylor, not letting her get a leg up, really showing her that, hey, I'm the champion, you gotta beat me type of vibe, Taylor Rising does hit some beautiful running Hurricane Ranas in the beginning, just looked very smooth, and they looked like they hurt too. They didn't look like flowy, airy moves, there was some strength on that, which I appreciated. Then Taylor goes for a dive on the outside, but Athena catches her in a fallaway slam position and then just tosses her into the barricade with no regard for Taylor's life. She did not care how Taylor was going to land, seemingly. That's how it looked. and Taylor just went right into the barricade, which was a steel barricade, so that looked like it hurt for sure. Athena was incredibly smooth in this entire match. She really made Taylor look great, and she made herself look great as always as well. There was a brutal looking DDT by Taylor, and Athena hit the Pac Cell, which basically is like flipping on your head when you get DDT'd. That looked awesome, probably the spot of the match for sure. Then Athena wins with a powerbomb and Koji Clutch submission. I was surprised to see Athena win with a submission. I'm not sure if this is a submission she's been using for a long time, but that was cool to see. I'm glad to see Athena win matches in different ways. It allows for every match to feel a little bit more unique. So yeah, Athena retains her Ring of Honor World Championship. So we'll see where Athena goes from here. I'm assuming she's going to continue feuding with Maya World. Maybe have a match with High End down the line. Yeah, I would love Athena to be on AEW, me and everyone else. Excuse me. But yeah, it's I think there's a reason Athena isn't on AEW every week though. Because she does run her own wrestling company. I forget the name of it, unfortunately. I know they're based in Texas. It's an indie promotion. So running your own promotion takes up a lot of your time because you have to get to know everybody and then running the actual shows and stuff like that. And plus, she's in Ring of Honor, a Ring of Honor World Champion. She's doing a lot to help the younger talent like Billy Starks, like Maya World. So I think Athena isn't on AEW probably for a reason, you know? I don't think it's that big. As much as I would love to see Athena on AEW every week, I think the work she's doing with the younger talent, with her own promotion, is very commendable. And maybe she gets more out of that, which is highly respectable in my opinion. And then Ian Riccaboni, Mauro Ranallo, and Don Callis pass it over to Scott D'Amore, who is the president of Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. He used to run TNA as well, but then TNA, like the dumb TNA that we know them to be, fired Scott D'Amore right after they were gaining so much momentum. So Scott D'Amore started Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling about maybe 2.5 years ago, and he announced a TV deal for Maple Leaf Pro, which is freaking amazing. I love that more pro wrestling companies are getting TV deals. It's a rising tide raises all ships, as they say. Canada is rich with pro wrestling history, as they showed in the video package. They showed some videos of Roddy Piper. Unfortunately, I don't remember who else was shown in the video package, but that was enough for me seeing Roddy Piper. It just reminded me of how rich Canada is with wrestling history, just as rich as Mexico. So it's awesome to see a Canadian company, get some recognition. So the show is going to be called Mayhem, MLP, Maple Leaf Pro Mayhem. It'll debut on TSN, which I think is the Toronto Sports Network, if I'm not mistaken. It will be debuting. I think they're starting tapings on June 12th and 13th. I'm not sure if it's debuting on that date, but definitely look into that if you're interested. I think it's pretty awesome that they're getting a TV deal. I wasn't expecting them to get a TV deal whatsoever, so a pleasant surprise, definitely. Speaking of pleasant surprises, the next match was really good. Ricochet and Rich Swann. This was the last match I watched on this Ring of Honor and Maple Leaf Pro Global Wars show. Mauro Ranallo says that Rich Swann and Ricochet have wrestled 70 times. That's insane for two men to wrestle that many times, but considering the length of their careers, how many companies each man has been in, it makes sense. Ricochet won their last match according to Mauro Ranallo. It took place last year, I believe. And this is Ricochet's first singles match since losing the national championship at Revolution. So that was cool to see. I love seeing Ricochet in singles matches. Ricochet has been one of my favorite wrestlers since I found out about him watching Lucha Underground when he was playing, of course, Prince Puma. And yeah, excuse me. So yeah, of course, it's Ricochet's first singles match, like I said. And I don't love dancing gimmicks, especially when people of color are given dancing gimmicks just because of the controversial and troubled history when it comes to stuff like that. But that's a conversation for another day. The Rich Swann seems to enjoy himself, so that's none of my business. And the crowd was into it too, so, good for Rich Swann. And I love that Mauro Ranallo was not afraid to mention Ricochet's WWE accomplishments. It makes it feel more like a sport. saying that Ricochet has won championships here and there and here, and which championships he's won, coveted championships like the Intercontinental Championship. I think that's cool. Good chain wrestling to start between Ricochet and Rich Swann, which was surprising to see they went right into chain wrestling. Ricochet immediately slows things down after that, basically saying, "We're not here to do dives. I'm here to beat you," which was a good starting point for this match. Then Swann would counter into a slow submission of his own, kind of establishing the rhythm of the match at first, which was cool. Then the action starts heating up with some flips, stuff that you would expect from both of these guys. Like-minded offense, they're basically going band for band, flip for flip, which is cool. Swann's offense is fun. It gets the crowd into the match more and more. His charisma is very infectious. And he is bald now. He used to have a small fro. So I think it looks good. I actually think he looks better bald. He looks more unique, more like a star, in my opinion. And Ricochet is so good. I think he's honestly underrated at this point because there are so many fantastic pro wrestlers, both in AEW and New Japan, which Ricochet has wrestled in a little bit. Ricochet balances the chicken heel, like someone who kind of stays away, tries to run away, and the aggressive heel. I think he balances both of those sides of being a heel very well at this point. He's very much improved as a heel worker over this past year. Ricochet then catches Rich Swann on the outside, and it looks like he's going to go for a snapmare, kind of roll him on his butt. But he just drives his face right into the floor, which looked very brutal. There was a sweat spot left by Swann's face that the commentators covered very well. I thought that looked fantastic. That was probably my favorite spot of the match. There were some chops in this match from both of these guys that were just very loud, echoing throughout the arena. I believe they were filming at a college in Canada, in Windsor. I can't remember the name of the college off the top of my head, but they did announce that their new TV show, Mayhem Maple Leaf Pro, will be taping there from now on, so that's cool to see. Kind of a Full Sail University vibe back in the day for NXT. Then the heavy strikes would continue, and the trash talk would continue from both men, especially from Ricochet. Great in-ring chemistry for both of these guys. The crowd was super into the match, and it ended off with a beautiful spirit gun by Ricochet, which of course is the elbow strike that he basically stole from Will Ospreay. Arguably, it might be even better than the Hidden Blade, but the Hidden Blade is such a beautiful move as well. Awesome match. Cool to see Rich Swann. This was probably my first time watching Rich Swann in a long time, I think. I think the last time I watched a Rich Swann match was his match with Kenny Omega. That was maybe 5 years ago. So, yeah, cool to see him still thriving in the wrestling business. I wonder if Rich Swann will show up in Ring of Honor or AEW. I think that would be cool. So we'll see what happens there. Maple Leaf Pro did have a solo show, but I unfortunately did not check that out. But if you are interested, definitely go check them out. Maple Leaf Pro is a pretty cool company. There's some new stars, some people you haven't heard of before, which is always neat. And yeah, they have a brand new TV show coming up. So if you are a fan of Canadian wrestling or you want to go support the wrestling business as a whole, definitely give them a chance. Okay. Now we're going to get into AEW Dynamite from March 25th, 2026. It opened up with Kenny Omega and Swerve. This match was good. I love both of these guys. Oh, shoot. I love both of these guys. Two of my favorite wrestlers in the world going at it. Their first match, of course, was nothing short of amazing. We did get Taz back on commentary. I'm not sure how long Taz has been out for, but I know he's been out for quite a bit. So it was cool to see him back. I think Taz and Excalibur probably have the best chemistry in terms of AEW commentary teams. Though they do like to pop themselves a lot. They like to joke around, which can kind of take away from the moment sometimes, takes you out of it. But I don't mind it necessarily. But Taz definitely is not my favorite commentator in the world. Though I love when he gets intricate, when he gets into detail on some moves. I think that's something that is missing. Swerve's heel work is great. Him as a heel, I think, is the right move. Him as a babyface is obviously fantastic. He was a babyface world champion, though his world championship run did kind of transition into a heel run at the end of it with Bryan Danielson. And Prince Nana grabs Kenny Omega's leg in the beginning of the match to distract him, and then Swerve gets the upper hand. It's interesting to see Prince Nana as a heel. I think he was a heel for a long time before then, in Ring of Honor, of course. But seeing him as a heel in AEW is very intriguing, considering he is so beloved by the crowd, and the crowd loves dancing with him and stuff like that. Omega's vintage offense still looks solid, as always, but I think even more so now, it feels like all the rust that Kenny Omega had it's been shaken off now. He's like fully back into the swing of things. Springboard moonsault by Kenny Omega, that looked great. Then Swerve counters a suplex. Omega counters a suplex attempt from Swerve with a knee strike, and then sends Swerve into the corner for a V-trigger. That very much put an exclamation point on the intro of the match, and then we kind of started getting into more aggressive stuff, let's say. Swerve hits a huge back suplex from the top rope that looked really good. It almost looked like Kenny Omega was about to land on his head. And then, of course, he transitions because he's such a pro onto landing on his back. Very beautiful move. A double down spot after a strike exchange. The crowd was super into this match. Great crowd as well. I think they were in... I honestly can't remember, unfortunately. I know they were in Cedar Rapids, Iowa for Collision, but I can't remember where they were for Dynamite. Wherever it was, though, 100 times better than that Fresno crowd. That Fresno crowd was abysmal. I mean, the show that they got wasn't great. It was very, very mediocre, especially compared to the other AEW shows that we've been getting. But yeah, that Fresno, do not ever go back to Fresno. If you live in Fresno, I'm sorry, but yeah, don't go back. I was seeing online that the Fresno crowd had the audacity to chant pay-per-view, we want a pay-per-view. No. Maybe a TNA pay-per-view, but you guys are not getting an AEW pay-per-view, I'm sorry. Alright, moving on. Kenny Omega attempts a dragon suplex on the apron after he hits a few in the ring. Swerve then grabs Aubrey Edwards, the referee, and hits Kenny Omega below the belt to escape that dragon suplex attempt. Then Swerve hits the piledriver on the guardrail, which Omega sold wonderfully. It looked like he just died. Swerve has hit this move a few times, though this might be the best it has looked so far. It always looks good on Kenny Omega, in my opinion, the piledriver on the guardrail. Then Swerve would hit a suplex toss into a powerbomb. Very reminiscent of Kenta Kobashi. That was probably my favorite thing that happened on Dynamite, that suplex into the powerbomb. Swerve is an anomaly. He is maybe like 250 of muscle, yet his agility has not diminished whatsoever, and his power moves have just gotten 100 times better. So that's freaking awesome. Shout out to Swerve. A standing house call strike, then a Swerve stomp, which of course is Swerve Strickland's finisher, and Omega kicks out just barely. Then Swerve transitions a powerbomb into a power slam, which still impresses me every time I see it. The strength and the core strength, especially, that it takes to hit a move like that on a big guy like Kenny Omega and the other big men that he hits it on. Swerve is, like I said, an anomaly. Kenny Omega is firing up after Swerve mocks him, which kind of fires Kenny Omega up, and Swerve hits the Vertebreaker, the Cop Killer, and Omega kicks out of that, which I was expecting. I was expecting Omega to win this match, but after that Vertebreaker, I was definitely on the edge of my seat. Then Omega dodges a Swerve stomp into a few V-triggers, then hits the One-Winged Angel for the win. So it looks like Kenny Omega has beaten Swerve for the number one contendership for the World Championship. So now Kenny Omega is the number one contender. Then after this match, we had Ospreay have a little video package, basically challenging Mox at Dynasty, hitting a huge exclamation point on the video package by saying, using the F word, which is cool. He pointed at his neck, further establishing the story, basically saying, this is what this is about. You took me out. I was out for a year. You broke my neck, essentially. Mox, I'm going to get revenge on you. Yada, yada, yada. Cool story. I mean, that's all you really need in pro wrestling. Just someone getting revenge and a good heel, a good baby face. That's all you really need. Then we had Ospreay challenge Pac to a match next week, or this week now, on Dynamite. So that should be freaking awesome. Obviously, Pac is one of the best in the world, and Ospreay is one of, if not the best in the world. We'll see how this match goes. I'm very interested to see, because Ospreay's match with Blake Christian, which was his return match, was fairly run-of-the-mill, nothing too special, obviously. It was just something to shake the rust off for Ospreay. So we'll see if this match is something to help Ospreay continue to shake the rust off, or if he's fully back, and this match is something truly special, which I would expect it to be. Then we had a trios match. Top Flight, that's where they were. They were in Minnesota. Top Flight, of course, from Minnesota, comes out with Zeta Steel. Zeta Steel, of course, is in the faction with Top Flight now, which is cool. I love that we're getting more factions, more intergender factions. I think that's awesome to see. Super important, because there's more stories you can tell with intergender factions. Top Flight and Zeta Steel would face Jon Moxley, Daniel Garcia, and Marina Shafir. After seeing this match, I thought the Trios Championships should be intergender like they used to be in Lucha Underground. Like I just said, you can get more stories out of it and more fun matches, more fun dynamics. Zeta Steel looks very smooth considering her limited experience. Maybe not as smooth as someone like Maya World, but I think the more reps she gets, she's going to get better. The most important thing about Zeta Steel, though, is she is already incredibly confident, and her charisma is infectious. The crowd was chanting her name, which is not something to take lightly. Top Flight are a super solid team. They always have been, and I hope that we get to see them wrestling more consistently on AEW television. There were a triple suicida by Top Flight and Zeta Steel that looked nice. The crowd loved it. Then Jon Moxley tries to hit a Doomsday device on Zeta Steel while Marina Shafir has her on her shoulders. I low-key wish that he did hit it, just because it would have been a very memorable moment. But him just attempting it was memorable enough for me, for sure. And like I said, I would love to see more intergender trios matches. Maybe have the trios championships become an intergender championship. Then we got a squash match. Mike Bailey defeats Rocky Romero very quickly. Just something to get Mike Bailey another win. It looks like we're setting up Mike Bailey challenging for the World Heavyweight Championship, if not the TNT Championship. Then we transition into the MJF promo, which is always an event. It's always like a huge block of television, something to look out for. MJF basically comes out and brags about beating Hangman Page. I was taken aback by how many times he said ever. He was basically saying like Hangman will never, ever, ever challenge for the championship again. And I think he kept saying ever, 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 because after the first few, it reminded everyone of that Chris Jericho catchphrase. So I feel like he was like, oh shoot, I gotta like keep going so that I don't recycle that catchphrase, I suppose. I don't know, that's how I thought about it. Then Kenny Omega interrupts MJF. MJF's face was like, oh, you son of a... I thought he sold that very well. Omega comes out, and Omega's promos are always like super effortless and sincere. It doesn't feel like he's trying to cut a promo. It just feels like he's talking about what he needs to talk about. Kenny Omega says if MJF is the devil, then he will embrace being the god of pro wrestling, which is something that people have called him before. Which is a nice thematic device for the story. It's something that you can put on a poster, something that'll sell the match more. And you can do more stuff like that. Do more stuff with that, rather. Kenny Omega admits that MJF was better than him the last time they faced each other, which was a few years ago on Collision while MJF was the world champion. It was just before MJF was about to beat Kenny Omega's longest reign. And MJF, of course, beat Kenny Omega. That match was really good. If you've never seen that match, definitely go check it out. It was on Collision, I think, in 2023 or 2024. Kenny Omega says, yeah, yes, you did beat me, and yes, you were better than me that night, but I was only at 60% strength. That was when Omega was dealing with diverticulitis, of course, which is another great, I'm not sure if thematic device is the right word, but or right phrase rather, but I thought that was a great thing to say for Kenny Omega to say. Yes, you did beat me, but I was dying essentially, and now I'm back to full strength. So let's see what you got now. I think that's another great thing going into the match to remember. Kenny Omega says, of course, that now he's fully back. He knows, and the crowd knows that MJF doesn't have a chance, but MJF knows it too. Kind of flipping MJF's catchphrase back on him, which is a good thing. MJF accepts Kenny Omega's challenge for Dynasty, so MJF versus Kenny Omega at Dynasty is made official, and of course Dynasty is taking place in Canada. I think is it in Toronto? I can't quite remember off the top of my head. I know it's in Canada though, so it makes all the sense in the world that Kenny Omega is challenging for the World Championship, and the match should be great. It'll probably be even better than that MJF and Hangman match. And Kenny Omega says, okay, great, we have this match. Now let's shake hands and, may the best man win or whatever. And then MJF's like, yeah, I accept your challenge. And about that handshake, boom, drops the mic, exits the ring. Go F yourself. I'm good. Great character work from both men. I thought this was a great setup to the match. You have some themes going into it. You have some things to remember. And MJF did a great job of kind of being insecure, showing that on his face, showing that he knows that Kenny Omega is stronger than he was before. So the match should be good, and it's honestly very unpredictable because a lot of people are saying Kenny Omega could defeat MJF, go on to face Will Ospreay at All In, which makes a lot of sense. But MJF versus Ospreay makes a lot of sense as well. So I think, either way you go, you have a great main event for All In. So that was a great promo segment from MJF and Kenny Omega. Another good promo segment backstage, an interview segment. Excuse me. Copeland and Christian Cage did a little promo hyping up their match with FTR. Excuse me, sorry. Christian Cage basically said, I can forgive you. I can forgive you, FTR, for beating up Copeland and beating up his wife, but you put your hands on me. And then he walks away, and then Copeland's like, oh, he's such an a-hole or whatever. Very brotherly dynamic, obviously, between these two. Copeland's intensity in this promo, basically saying, I'm going to get revenge on you for, beating up my wife and stuff like that. His acting obviously has improved immensely since he's gotten more reps doing TV shows and stuff. So his intensity was very believable, and it got me more interested in the match. Honestly, I was very cold on the match with FTR and Copeland Christian. I was just kind of like, whatever. But yeah, Copeland's promo was really good, got me into it. I hope the match is good. Then we transitioned right into an FTR promo, basically a response to this one, which wasn't anything memorable. It was kind of whatever. Then Orange Cassidy and Roderick Strong basically interrupt FTR. Orange Cassidy comes out and does a light shove on Stokely Hathaway. And then FTR really shove him to the floor. Then Roderick Strong comes to his rescue, maybe teasing a match between Cassidy and Strong and FTR for the tag titles. Maybe before Dynasty or after. I think the team of Cassidy and Strong is actually growing on me more and more every time I see it. The dynamic makes a lot of sense. Kind of an introvert and extrovert kind of thing. So yeah, that's cool. Roderick Strong and Orange Cassidy did face David Finlay and Clark Connors in a tag team match. Really solid tag team match. Great offense from everyone in this match. Great lockup with Finlay and Strong to begin. Just super intense. And Roderick Strong's offense is sensational in my opinion. He's one of the best in the world when he gets into that gear. And The dogs looked great as heels in this match as well. They were very dominant and intimidating, and they were just really showing off, getting the crowd to boo them. And Finley's and Clark Connor's combination offense looked great too. Super great tag team moves, and the total elimination with a spear from Clark Connors win the dogs the match. And Clark Connors actually pins Orange Cassidy. I was very surprised by this. I thought either Clark Connors or Roderick Strong were definitely taking the pin. So it made me actually really happy to see Cassidy take the pin because it makes the win for Finley and Connors kind of mean more in the echelon of things. So yeah, very solid tag team match. I liked it quite a bit. In the next match, we had Mina Shirakawa and Tekla for the AEW World Championship. Of course, Toni Storm was taken out, and Tekla was teasing Mina about this throughout the entire match. And Mina's an awesome babyface. The crowd always loves Mina, especially during the matches. Like, even if the entrance doesn't get a huge reaction, by the time Mina's getting beat up, people are cheering for her, wanting her to come back. So that just goes to show how good she is at professional wrestling. A suplex by Mina on the floor, then throws Tekla back into the ring to hit her springboard twisting splash, which of course is a vintage Shirakawa move. Tekla then gets the upper hand with some physical offense. Tekla is just vicious, like an incredibly believable heel, very unlikable, but in a likable way. I love watching her. Mina counters into a DDT on the outside, which looked really good. And then Tekla mocked Mina's dancing. She was kind of shimmying. Tekla loves to mock. I'm saying, like, Tekla is such a good heel. Very. Chris Statlander called her a bitch straight up, and I think that describes her really well as a heel. She's ruthless and arrogant, and just a fantastic heel world champion. Honestly, maybe my favorite world champion that the women's division has had in quite a bit. Not that Statlander or Toni Storm's last reign was bad by any means. Tekla then gets the win with some brass knuckles, which was surprising. I thought Tekla would just win straight up, but I like that they protected Mina Shirakawa a bit by having Tekla cheat here with the brass knuckles. And considering if this is a thing moving forward, Tekla using the brass knuckles, kind of having that be a thing for her character, I think that would be cool as well. So yes, Tekla retains her world championship. We'll see where she goes from here. Then Kenny Omega was interviewed by Renee Paquette. Of course, the remarkable Renee Paquette, one of the best interviewers of all time. Speedball kind of interrupts Kenny Omega's interview, but in a nice way. He would basically come in and wish Kenny Omega luck, saying, I hope you win the world championship, and I hope that I get to fight you for that championship when you win it. And Kenny Omega says, yeah, if I win, you'll be first in line. So that's cool. Then Mike Bailey shakes Omega's hand and shakes it for an awkward amount of time, and Omega's like, you can let go, pal, which is a very cute little end to that segment. I think Mike Bailey's a fun character. He's very lovable. And of course, Kenny Omega is like the protagonist now that Hangman's out. Then the main event. Darby Allin and Rush. Rush is awesome. He's just like simply an awesome professional wrestler. Every time I see him, I'm blown away by how just good he is. I think you could drop Rush in any era and he would thrive. Darby is relentless, of course. He can get beat up, he can get ran over, thrown down some stairs, and he's still going to come back with fiery offense. He's like a weasel or like a honey badger. I think a honey badger is probably more of an apt description of Darby Allin. Lots of chops, of course. Rush just really laying these chops into Darby Allin. Darby doesn't have like a huge chest, so yeah, these chops were like thuds. They were echoing throughout the arena. This match had no countouts, which is an interesting stipulation. The majority of the match was on the outside, just having Rush kind of beat up Darby Allin. And yeah, it was... excuse me one second. Okay, so yeah, so Darby misses the dive, then Roosh just kind of lays into him, stomping him, while Darby is on the floor. The doctor starts checking on him, and then Roosh just stomps on him anyway, which is cool. And then Roosh headbutts Darby to cut off his comeback. Darby was trying to come back basically the entire match, but Roosh was just not having it. And then Darby hits a coffin drop on Roosh, who's draped on the ropes, which leads to the outside. Darby hits the suicide dive. Darby starts biting Roosh, and then hits a diving dropkick while Roosh is sitting on a chair. And Darby dives from the top rope and hits a dropkick, which looked fantastic. Then the strike exchange leads to a code red, and Darby gets the roll-up win. Pretty solid main event. Nothing too long, nothing incredibly memorable, but, for a TV episode, it was a good main event. I hope we get to see more Roosh. I feel like he's very rarely on TV, and he's one of the best in the world, so I feel like he's very underutilized. And it seems like Darby's just getting more wins to eventually fight MJF for the world title. I'm hoping that isn't the all-in match. I would like to see Ospreay win the title this year, but considering Darby's kind of big win has been postponed for so long, I suppose it makes sense. Then after Darby wins the match, Mark Davis and the Don Callis family come out, and Mark Davis hits a great pile driver, just picking him up off the floor and driving him into the ground. Mark Davis has very much improved. It seemed like he was going to be thrown to the wayside after Kyle Fletcher, became a huge star. But he's really come back and become undeniable, which is good to see. And then Andrade comes out basically pointing at Darby Allin. So that'll likely be the match at Dynasty, Andrade and Darby Allin, which is good because Andrade faced Bandito at the last pay-per-view and picked up the win there. I'm sure he will lose to Darby, but it should be a great match nonetheless. But yeah, that was AEW Dynamite. Let's go into AEW Collision, and then we'll go over some news, and then we'll get out of here. The first match on Collision was Divine Dominion, which is the new tag team of Megan Bayne and Lena Cross, which are basically just two Amazonian women, just two incredibly tall people. And the Babes of Wrath, of course, which was Willow, Nightingale, and Harley, getting their rematch after losing the tag team belts. Megan Bayne nearly dies on a suicide dive. She nearly missed Willow and just went right into the floor head first. But thankfully, she landed okay. But yeah, that looked pretty scary, honestly. And then Cross and Bayne start beating up Willow. Pretty long heat segment, just beating up on Willow, getting the crowd to cheer for her, wanting the comeback. The comeback was cut off a few times. Great suplex and super kick combo by Megan Bayne. Megan Bayne's awesome. Her offense always looks really good. And then we get the Harley Cameron hot tag, of course. The crowd was pretty into it. And double team, counter, Megan Bayne and Cross hit stereo fallaway slams. It's good to see that Megan Bayne and Cross are implementing more tag team moves into their matches. Obviously, they're a brand new team. They just started wrestling together a few weeks ago, but they already look like a formidable team. And of course, they are the tag team champions, so it makes a lot of sense. Then we get a stereo single leg Boston Crab by the Babes of Wrath. And it looks like the Divine Dominion will tap out, but they don't. And then we get a single leg drop kick German suplex combo from Divine Intervention or Divine Dominion, excuse me. And then we get their finishing move, which is called the Divine Intervention, which is like a double choke slam move. They hit it on Harley Cameron and pick up the win. So yes, fun little tag team match, a good opener. But I'm glad that the Divine Dominion win. I was really hoping that Willow and Harley would lose this match because I would like to see Willow focus on her TBS championship and the singles matches going forward. And it looks like we are going to get that based off a promo segment that we got later in the night. Then we got a fun little singles match, almost like a squash match, kind of a showcase match for Myron Reed, who of course is part of the Rascals. We haven't seen a lot of Myron Reed. It's basically been Zachary Wentz and Desmond Xavier kind of running these tag team matches over and over again to establish the team. So it's good to see Myron Reed get some shine here. And of course, against Johnny TV, who's a veteran, always puts on pretty good matches. Of course, he did just lose a hair versus hair match in Mexico. So he's bald now, which definitely surprised me when he first walked out. I was like, who the hell is that? But then, yeah, he looks pretty good. After a while, I got used to the look, and it was a solid match. Myron Reed hits a springboard leg drop on Johnny while he is draped on the ropes, which is a good move. Johnny misses the Starship Pain, which is, of course, his finisher. Then Myron hits a kip up cutter, which is very similar to El Clone's kind of kip up back kick. I would love to see them two face off. Then we get a springboard 450 splash, which he calls the no cap splash, which is a solid finishing move name. And yeah, Myron Reed looks pretty good so far. I hope we get to see him run more singles matches. I'm surprised that we're not just getting the Rascals in the Trios division, considering they're starting to focus more on the Trios championships. Maybe that's something we do down the line. But yeah, as long as these guys keep getting TV time and establishing the characters more and wrestling more people, I'm okay with that, honestly. Then we get a really good tag team match. Maybe my favorite match of the night. It was a Private Party and Jon Moxley and Daniel Garcia. Before the match, Garcia basically had a promo calling out Private Party for prioritizing partying over wrestling. And of course, Moxley was cutting a promo on them as well about that. Garcia and Moxley were really laying into Mark Quinn, a long heat segment, a lot of submissions and slow strikes, which juxtaposed, of course, Isaiah Cassidy's comeback and hot tag. Great Swanton Bomb by Cassidy, of course. These guys were mentored by the Hardys, so it makes a lot of sense that they would implement some Hardys offense, but they do it in their own style, which I appreciate. 450 splash by Cassidy, but when he hits it, his knees went right into Garcia's ribs, and you could see Garcia's face like, oh god, the way he reacted, I was like, damn, I'm sure that did not feel good in the morning. Justified, this is awesome chance, really solid tag team work from all of these guys. Mox, of course, is a tag team specialist. He's been in tag team matches the majority of his career, so no surprise here. Mox hits a cutter, Garcia hits a pile driver, and Isaiah Cassidy kicks out. I and the entire crowd thought it was over. They chanted 3 when the count was happening. Garcia locks in a Dragon Tamer, which of course is the sharpshooter, and Cassidy unfortunately taps out. I would have loved to have seen Private Party win this match, considering they kind of just returned. But if we're going to get a long-standing rivalry between these guys, I suppose it makes sense. And yeah, it makes sense for Garcia to get the win too, because I feel like he's always the pin eater in the Death Riders. I mean, considering Moxley and Claudio are world championship level wrestlers, I suppose it makes sense that the younger guy would take the pins. But yeah, it's good to see Garcia get a win here, maybe getting some momentum. I feel like Garcia lost a lot of momentum joining the Death Riders. As a character, he has improved, but yeah, he's just been losing a lot. So yeah, cool to see. Hopefully we get a rematch with these guys, maybe at a pay-per-view or something like that. Then we get a Ricochet promo, and Kenny Omega and Ricochet announce a match. I thought it was going to be one-on-one, so I was very excited, but it was announced that it's going to be Brody King, Kenny Omega, and Jack Perry versus The Demand, which should be a fun trios match nonetheless, but I was hoping we would get that Ricochet and Kenny Omega singles match, because I think we haven't gotten that yet. I know Ricochet and Kenny Omega faced off in a triple threat match with Mike Bailey last year at Dynasty, so hopefully we do get that one-on-one match if we haven't gotten it, and I just don't remember. But yeah, hopefully we get that soon. The trios match on Dynamite this week, should be fun. But yeah, that was a cool little promo segment setting up that match. Then we get a Brawling Birds and Mina Shirakawa trio squash match. The Brawling Birds are definitely my favorite tag team in the women's division right now. They just feel like a real tag team. I like the name of the team. I like their dynamic between Hayter and Windsor. And yeah, their offense looks great too. Then after they win the match, Brawling Birds tell Mina Shirakawa that they had nothing to do with Tony Storm being attacked, which was kind of suspicious because, like, why did you need to bring that up in the first place? And the way that Jamie Hayter said it, I was like, I don't know, man. The way you said that, I'm kind of suspecting that it was you. Then Tekla interrupts them, and of course her promo as a heel is entertaining as always, and we get a Triangle of Madness and Brawling Birds and Mina match announced next week for Dynamite, which is good to see. I feel like the Triangle of Madness don't get a lot of trios matches, especially Julia and Sky Blue. It feels like they're just kind of in the background a lot of the time. And these are 2 young women. I feel like they need to be wrestling as much as possible. So yeah, cool to see that they are going to be wrestling soon. Then we get a Don Callis family promo, Kyle Fletcher, Mark Davis, and Kazuchika Okada. Fletcher says that he isn't a fan that the Don Callis family is working with MJF. He says that they should bring the world title back to the Don Callis family. So I'm assuming we are going to get a Kyle Fletcher and MJF match, if not rivalry soon. That'll probably come after Fletcher's kicked out of the Don Callis family and he kind of goes full babyface. Though I wouldn't be surprised if they just run it on a random Dynamite or something like that. And Okada's English has gotten really good. I was like blown away by how good his English is. I mean, his English has always been good, but he's basically fluent now, so that's awesome. Then Okada teases more dissension in the Don Callis family, kind of the dynamic between Fletcher, Okada, and Takeshita. This has been the definition of a slow burn. I think the story has already been going on 6 months, which I don't mind necessarily. I think, you can get more matches and stuff like that out of it, but at the same time, I feel like we need to get to the climax of the story already. You don't need to run the Okada and Takeshita match right away, but kicking Takeshita out of the Don Callis family, I think, makes all the sense in the world because there are so many members. You can have Takeshita kind of run through the obstacles to get to Okada, and All In is in what, like 4-5 months? So yeah, like you can get a lot done in that time frame. But the fact that this story is going to be a year long, I don't know, maybe just a little bit too long, in my opinion. Then we get a really good match. Tommaso Ciampa and Ace Austin. Ace Austin is in the Bang Bang Gang, kind of a subsidiary of Bullet Club. And Tommaso Ciampa has looked good. He turned heel, but the crowd still chants his name. It's like he never turned heel. The people still love him. And it makes sense. His entrance is cool as hell. And he's a great wrestler. Plus, he just came into the company, so people are obviously still very excited that he's there. And unfortunately, I feel like he has lost some steam since losing the TNT Championship. It kind of feels like he's just floating in the mid-card. Though I suppose that isn't a bad thing because he's wrestling consistently and he's getting wins. So I would just like to see him enter like a rivalry or a story of some sort. I don't want to see him just wrestling random matches every week. I think that would be bad long term. Ace Austin's speed was pissing off Ciampa in the beginning of the match. Ciampa exits the ring to kind of slow things down. Then he comes in and starts laying in some offense, some stomps. And Ace Austin eventually hits a diving crossbody to the outside. And he hits a unique Hurricane Rana. You kind of just have to see it to know what I mean. But yeah, Austin is really good. Ciampa's chops look unforgiving, just thudding, echoing throughout the arena. Then Ciampa hits a draping neck breaker, and of course he pats himself on the back, starts clapping for himself, which the crowd was super into it. They loved Tommaso Ciampa here in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Then Ciampa's heat segments are really solid. They're entertaining and brutal, and they don't feel too dragged out. I feel like they are the right amount of time for the crowd to get into the match, but they don't overstay their welcome like a lot of other heels do. And Ace Austin's selling as a babyface is really believable as well. The crowd was really into the comeback, a good mix of flips and old school moves, like a Russian leg sweep that Ace Austin did. I love the Russian leg sweep. I think it's a great move. I love when people mix stuff like that, mix the new school with the old school. I think that's the best way to go about it. Project Ciampa, which is Tommaso Ciampa's powerbomb into the knees. That's one of my favorite moves that any wrestler does. It just looks great. It looks brutal. Ace Austin does a backflip dive to the outside. Then a Psycho Driller, which is the air raid crash that Ciampa does from the second rope. And Austin did kick out of this, which I thought was the end of the match. So great false finish there. Chops back and forth, striking back and forth. Austin trying his best to stay in the match. Austin fighting up from his knees to try to stay in the match. And they continue exchanging strikes, but Ciampa gets knocked out by a kick from Ace Austin, which is cool. Really good to see. I loved that there was a variety of offense throughout the match. And yeah, Ace Austin is super impressive considering he just kind of entered the company and he's kind of been under the radar. Ace Austin does hit a Death Valley driver into the turnbuckles. Then Ciampa hits a suplex toss into the corner. So they basically traded slamming each other into the corner. And then Ciampa takes off his knee pad and hits his running knee for the finish. This was a really solid match. I thought this was going to be like a 5-minute squash match for Ciampa, and it ended up being like a 10-minute showcase for both of these guys. So then Juice Robinson comes out to help his friend. Ciampa then gets back into the ring, teasing that he's going to attack Juice from behind. Then Juice turns around. The crowd was super into it. So I did say I wanted a story for Ciampa, and it looks like we are going to get that. It seems like we're going to get Ciampa feuding with the Bang Bang Gang, maybe for at least a few weeks. Maybe this leads to Jay White returning. We get Jay White and Tommaso Ciampa. I think that'd be amazing. So we'll see what happens there. Then we get a Babes of Wrath promo with Willow and Harley basically announcing that they are going their separate ways, and Willow Nightingale will be focusing on the TBS Championship. I was like, all right, good. All due respect to Harley Cameron, you know, she has improved immensely. Obviously, like, she has improved a lot, but Willow is one of the best in the world, and I think not having her wrestling in singles matches against other great women's wrestlers is a disservice to her, honestly. So that made me happy. Then we get Aussie Open, Kyle Fletcher and Mark Davis versus the Rascals, Zachary Wentz and Desmond Xavier. I love seeing Aussie Open reunite. Kyle Fletcher and Mark Davis don't team very often anymore, so when they do, it's something that I definitely look out for. The Letterman jackets that the Don Callis family have been wearing, I think, are cool. They add an interesting element to their presentation. And the Rascals are a fun TV act. They're kind of like potheads or whatever, which I think is something unique. Obviously, not every wrestler is having that sort of character. So it definitely stands out for sure. And I wanted some Aussie chants, and the Cedar Rapids crowd didn't let me down. They did chant that throughout the match. Then the Rascals take the upper hand early, and some double team offense from both teams that looked great. Huge body slam by Fletcher. Kyle Fletcher's body slam is one of the best in the game. Plain and simple. Zachary Wentz hits a Bronco Buster, and Mark Davis kicks out at 1, rightfully so. And vintage Aussie Open tag team offense, very nostalgic almost. Then Mark Davis starts mauling Wentz in the corner. His chops were like thuds in this match. The crowd absolutely loved Fletcher. At some point, Fletcher just enters the match and starts like strutting, and the crowd like erupts. They were loving this guy here. And he was embracing it, so that was fun. And then the Rascals hit some more combo offense, which was smooth. Their tag team offense is really good. Mark Davis hits a Saito suplex. Looked great. Then the great back and forth leads to things getting into the next gear in this match. This match wasn't too long, but I think it was long enough for it to be a very good tag team match. Mark Davis hits the pile driver that he's known for. It was kind of a weird, abrupt finish, but a good tag team match nonetheless. And it did look like Kyle Fletcher may have gotten hurt in this match. I hope that isn't the case. And if it is the case, hopefully it's an injury that doesn't take him out for too long, and hopefully he recovers very quickly. I hope that Fletcher and Davis continue tagging together. Honestly, just give them the tag team championships for like a month or two. If Fletcher isn't going to win the world title anytime soon, then, let him collect other accolades. And, yeah, I would love to see Aussie Open win the tag titles, because you can run the Young Bucks match, and you could even run Cope and Christian versus Aussie Open. Then we get a Don Callis and Ricochet promo. I actually like the two of these guys together. I think Don Callis managing Ricochet would be good. Though Ricochet's promos have improved a lot, I think Callis just kind of adds another layer of unlikability to Ricochet's character. Callis says he will give Ricochet some of that MJF money if Ricochet and The Demand beat Kenny Omega on Wednesday. So we'll see where this leads. If maybe The Demand join the Don Callis family, or I don't know. We'll see where it goes with this pairing. Then we get a Mox promo, basically going over what happened in the tag team match with Private Party, and basically hyping up the match with Ospreay as well. Mox says, "I will never stand between a person and the consequence of their actions," which I thought was a killer line. Moxley always has killer lines in his promos. There's always like one or two lines you could take out of a promo of Mox's and put it in a book or something like that. Moxley says he has no sympathy for taking out Ospreay, basically saying like that's the job, which I think is a good perspective for his character to have, and it makes all the sense in the world for him to be very apathetic because Ospreay is so aggressive in his hunt for revenge. Then Mox basically hypes up Pac for the Ospreay match this Wednesday, saying like you don't know what you're getting yourself into type of vibe. And Garcia was holding the Continental Championship during this promo, which could mean nothing, or it could be a tease for later this year. Maybe Garcia is the one to eventually take the title off of Moxley. So we'll see where that goes. And then the main event of AEW Collision was Kevin Knight and Kazuchika Okada for the AEW International Championship. Great Kevin Knight promo before the match, basically just hyping it up and hyping himself up. He's super confident on the mic, though I think as a character he will be better as a heel. But we'll see where that goes. And I wanted to quickly shout out Lexi Nair. She's been a staple in AEW and Ring of Honor for many years now, and her interviews improve year over year. So shout out to Lexi Nair. I think she's going to continue to be a fantastic interviewer for many years to come. Lock up to begin this match. Then Kevin respectfully disrespects Okada, kind of a vintage Okada spot. Okada exits the ring to slow things down. Okada washes his boot on Kevin's face. Then Kevin Knight basically shows the determination. He says he's not going to back down. And Okada's experience is enough to stop him, to slow him down. But Kevin Knight's comeback was very intense. A lot of clotheslines and slams. The crowd was super into it. Vintage Okada in this match, but as a heel, he works like very slow, especially in the beginning of his matches. This is something that's been known about Okada for many years, though. Like the first 15 minutes of an Okada match is missable, depending on your preference. And not a great heat segment to kind of go into more detail on that from Okada. Just very almost boring, unfortunately, in my opinion. Though he did work the crowd well. And Kevin Knight has some more desperate intensity that was great for the story of the match. An incredible drop kick from Okada, as always. One of the best drop kicks in the game. A springboard clothesline from Kevin to the outside that looked mesmerizing. Then he throws Okada into the ring and hits a springboard clothesline into the ring. Okada kicks out at 2.9. Wow, that springboard clothesline from the top rope to the outside looks crazy. Kevin Knight's incredibly talented, incredibly athletic. Okada counters a superplex into a shove, shoving Kevin Knight off of the top rope. Kevin Knight backflips, lands on his feet, then runs towards Okada into a leaping Frankensteiner off the top rope, and then hits his coast-to-coast drop kick out at 2. Then Kevin Knight hits a UFO splash halfway across the ring, but Okada gets his knees up, and Kevin Knight's knees, either it looked like his knees landed on Okada's face or his knees straight up landed on Okada's face. Oh man, that looked nasty. Nigel's reaction to it was appropriate. Then Okada uses the roll-up, and he uses the rope as leverage to cheat, and he gets the win. No surprise here that Okada retains his championship, though I am interested to see where we go with Kevin Knight, considering the trios champions are kind of all wrestling singles matches right now. Obviously, Mystico can't be there every week, but hopefully we get more trios championships defenses going forward. But we'll see, because it seems like Mike Bailey's focused on singles matches as well at the moment. I wonder if Okada will be defending his international championship at Dynasty. I don't know who it would be against, but I want to see him defend the title more. I would love to see Okada wrestle more, but I'm sure his deal makes it so that he doesn't have to, which good for him. Make your money, bro. Okay, so that was AEW Dynamite and AEW Collision, both very solid episodes. I think obviously Dynamite had higher highs, but as a consistent show, I thought Collision was better this week. Collision was fantastic. Collision has been really good since December, honestly. it's almost like they realized, like, hey, we have 2 more hours of TV. We should probably prioritize it a little bit more and not just make it like a B show. Maybe try to put more effort into making it the A2 show. And I think they've done a good job of that. Okay, we're going to get out here in a second. I appreciate if you stopped by or if you watched or anything, leave a like. I would appreciate it. Subscribe and all those dumb stuff, all those dumb things. But more than anything, I hope you're doing well. Okay, a couple of things that happened this week. Toni Storm, it was announced that she's going to be out for at least a year. This was surprising. I did watch her match live and in person at Revolution. Little did I know that would be the last time Toni Storm would wrestle for the next year. Obviously, there's been a lot of speculation about why she is going to be out for the next year because they've explicitly said that it wasn't due to injury. But yeah, no matter what, I hope, that her and her family are okay and all that good stuff. Toni Storm, obviously one of the best in the world. She will be sorely missed. That gap in the women's division is definitely going to be felt, at least until Mercedes returns. And even then, you're going to be missing Toni Storm, I think, at least a little bit. So hopefully a couple of women step up and take that spot and show that, that they can be a top star as well. And I think obviously they can. They just need to be given the time. Another thing that happened in the last few weeks was Ricochet's controversial tweet. Basically, people have been attacking Ricochet and Samantha Irvin online for many years now. People are weird. I really don't like that you're taking time out of your life to mess with these people. Like, that's just some loser behavior, in my opinion. Obviously, you can go, like, tweet, like, I think you suck and stuff like that, but threatening people and calling them out of their name, I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit too much. Maybe I'm a little bit too, like, woke or whatever. So yeah, there was a woman who tweeted at Ricochet basically saying, like, your acting sucks. And then Ricochet retaliated by saying, I'm glad you have MS, which MS is a degenerative disease. So yeah, maybe he did go a little bit too far. But I think people were just attacking him and his wife at all angles. He maybe just felt cornered and retaliated in a way that maybe he shouldn't have. And he did apologize eventually, but he did double down at first. Yeah, I don't really hold it against him. People make mistakes. He did apologize eventually. Like, who really cares? It's a tweet at the end of the day. So, there were people like Brian Alvarez saying that he should be fired over this. I think that's an insanely dumb take. There are other heels in pro wrestling, especially people in AEW, not to name any names. But there are people that have said worse things to people. In person, mind you. So, yeah. It has passed. It's kind of gone under the water under the bridge at this point, so that's good. Hopefully it doesn't hinder Ricochet's progress in AEW in any way. Hechicero did win the CMLL World Championship from Claudio Castagnoli. I unfortunately haven't watched this match yet, but I will be watching it eventually. Great for Hechicero. Hechicero winning the World Championship. I think this is the first time he's held the championship in a few years. So great for CMLL having a luchador, a Mexican, hold that championship again. Not that Claudio's reign was bad by any means. He was wrestling in Mexico quite a bit. And he has signed a dual contract with CMLL and AEW. So it looks like he will be returning to CMLL sometime soon. So I do like that. I love that there aren't just CMLL people signing dual contracts. There are also people in AEW signing dual contracts as well. It's great for both companies. The last story I want to get into really quickly. A preschool executive, excuse me, a preschool executive is accused of stealing $3 million worth of students' tuition and spending it buying $350,000 worth of WWE VIP tickets and meet and greets. Oh my goodness. This woman is crazy, y'all. Like, who does something like that? Stealing from children to go to a WWE show is disgusting. Oh, man. Yeah, like she has ruined her reputation. She's probably ruined her life to meet like Rhea Ripley to go to SmackDown. What are we doing here? I don't know. I think that's disgusting behavior. She's obviously gonna get in trouble for this, if not already. I haven't looked too much into the story. I've seen headlines and stuff like that. But I thought it was worth mentioning because I found it so hilarious. Like, W, you steal $3 million. I don't know. I wouldn't steal $3 million from kids, but if I did, I would be gone. I would never be in America, let alone going to a WWE show. I don't know, just really dumb decision making here. And it goes to show you that, I don't know, WWE fans are another breed, I suppose. But yeah, I thought that was a funny little story to end things off on. I think that's going to be it for today, guys. Nothing too crazy happened this week, but some great wrestling from AEW and Ring of Honor. We will be back next week on Saturday, more than likely around 7 p.m., if not on Sunday at 7 p.m. I am doing my best to establish a more consistent schedule, but I'm still getting used to streaming in general. I'm still kind of finding my voice, as they say, finding my confidence, being on camera. I don't love being on camera, but I'm kind of forcing myself to. And there are moments where I think, like, there are so many effed up things happening in the world. Is it worth sitting down and talking about wrestling? But like I said in the beginning of the stream, you have to hold on to the things that make you happy, even if it's something as silly as pro wrestling. So if you did stop by, I really appreciate it. We do upload shorts, and I'm gonna start uploading other sorts of videos eventually as well. I'm still kind of thinking about ideas. I don't want to just rehash things that people have already done, like top 10 lists and stuff like that. Not that there's anything wrong with that at all. But yeah, I'm doing my best to think of unique things to upload. I am having fun doing the Pro Wrestling Iceberg series. I was talking to someone about upgrading my list because the list that I have is fairly basic. So I would like to find one that has more stories that people don't know about. And if not, I will just do my own research and kind of do an extra entry or whatever. But yeah, that'll be it for today. I appreciate you stopping by, and have a good day, have a good week. We'll see you next time.